Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the RL Ireland's Top 20 Players of the Month by myself, Enwrong here. Joined today for our patrons who are supporting us this month, and thanks very much, you guys, for supporting us. It is very much appreciated, but we'll just get straight into things because I know that's why you're here, and there's no point dilly-dallying around with this kind of thing, so let's get into it. So as you can see, this is for June 2020. And I guess the first thing I want to say before we start the video is that we would like to remind you that this can be opinion based at times. The purpose of this video is to make an argument for RLI's top players of the month in an enjoyable setting, but we're also trying to stir the pot a bit to create some fun and interesting talking points. This is meant to be a bit of banter after all, while also trying to be as factually based as possible in terms of placings. I will be ripping into people from time to time, but this is not to be taken as a personal attack. This isn't my Enwrong's hot takes. And instead, just as seen as a way to create some fun points of discussion between patrons. Have fun and enjoy. And also thanks to Wazzito for helping me out with making this presentation. Let's get straight into things. At number 20 on our list of players for June is Spectre. Spectre, of course, from Cork. And his accomplishments are listed here. He didn't play in IEC Cup 5. He went 0-4 in week 1 of RLIS and Superstar against the Vikings with 2-0 losses in both 2s and 3s. He didn't play IEC Cup 6, but he did go 4-0 in week 2 of RLIS against Satanta with 2-0 wins in 2s and 3s. So, really weak start to the month from Spectre. But he's come on strong in the final week of the month, and yeah, he'd be looking to step up now and keep up that kind of level going forward. He does have the potential, as I say here, but he does need to grind out those IECs to go up the pecking order in Ireland because he's well down at the moment, and he just barely makes it in on the list here. At number 19, we have Jaffa. This will come as a surprise to some people, but for me, using my point system calculator, this wasn't actually that much of a surprise. So Jaffa's done quite well in IECs, top 4 in the 5th one. He went 0-6 with 2-0 losses and 1s, 2s, and 3s. That is the worst record in all of Superstar, I believe. He had a top 4 finished in an IEC Cup 6, but that was the weakest IEC in my opinion. And he went 0-4 last week against Fomorians with 2-0 losses and 2s and 3s. So Jaffa's had a disastrous showing in RLS this month, and he's lost every single series, not won a single game yet. But his IEC showing showed that he's a capable player, and that's why he makes a top 20 based off of the points calculator. Next up on the list in 18th position is LTXSam. So Sam hasn't played in either of the IEC Cups this month again. However, Sam has gone 5-3 in week 1 of RLS with a 2-0 win in ones, which was impressive actually, I think. And winning the 2s 2-1. He did lose the 3s though 2-1. So that Celtic Tiger seemed looking a little bit weak there, maybe in the 3s. And in week 2, he went 1-2 against the Saints, and the loss there, the series he played was a 2-1 loss in 3s. So I guess the kind of thoughts there really is, look, he's not playing in the IECs, which are hurting his position. One of them, of course, was staff related. He had to sit it out in admin. But he's the kind of player that can definitely consistently break top 15 without any doubt. He just needs to put in good performances. Got to sort out the consistency maybe in the 3s environment there, and he'll be well on his way to doing well in IEC. Number 17 next, not another big surprise here. It's Penghu, who had a fantastic month of May, but his June has dropped off quite a bit. Top 4 again in IEC Cup 5, and he went 0-4 in week 1 of RLS against the Saints, lost the 2s and the 3s 2-0, top 4 in IEC Cup 6, and he went 1-6 in week 2 of RLS against Fomorians. He lost the 2s and the 3s 2-0 with a 2-1 loss in the 1s. The only difference here between him and Jaffa is that he's taken a game in RLIS this season, and that that resonates. That means that's the 2 position difference there between the 2 guys. So yeah, he'll need to pick up his performances if he wants to get higher into the list. He's not used to being outside this low down. He's normally at least in the top 15 and always on the brink of the top 10 when you consider all game modes. So Penghu, I'm sure, will be a little bit disappointed with this, but the stats kind of the placings kind of back it up. Number 16 is Wazzito. Waz top 4 in IEC Cup 5, which is a decent cup to be fair. Now he went 0-4 in week 1 of RLIS against the High Kings, and his 2-0 losses came in both 2s and 3s, which hurt him. Top 6 in IEC Cup 6, which is probably the weakest IEC, so not a great showing there either. But he did go 2-0 in week 2 against Setanta, albeit the weakest team, with a 2-0 win in the 3s. So for Waz, he's had, I think, a below par showing in one of the IECs and then one of the RLIS weeks, but he's slowly moving up the leaderboards each month. Of course, he wasn't here 2-3 months ago, and he's edging his way up now, and the next thing will be to break that top 15 and kind of stay there consistently and push for top 10. I guess before we look at the other 5 people, let's just mention who we had. Again, there we had Spectre, Jaffa, LTXSam, Penghu, and we had Waz. And for me, those guys, I think every single one of them, I think in my mind, should be looking to be top 15 players consistently. They're better than a couple of players higher up on the list, and I think they should be all disappointed with themselves in their performance. Waz is the only one who's kind of shouldn't be, but he kind of should be. You'll argue he's been carrying his team, but for me, I'm not so sure about that one. Spectre hasn't shown up for IECs, don't know why. Not sure what he's doing, to be honest with you. Is there a different time zone down in Cork on Saturdays that he's not used to? Jaffa has been way out of his depth in RLS this season. Not sure why that is. He's playing with 2 players that he knows fairly well. Maybe they just don't mesh well. Sam not showing in IECs. Of course, that's not really so much his problem, so I can't really give out to him too much on that. But his RLS placings haven't been the best. And Penghu, again, RLIS, that team just isn't gelling with Setanta, and they've been pretty woeful. But his IEC Cup showings have been decent, and for Waz, it's just lack of consistency maybe, or killer instinct in some games. Yeah, a couple of those guys now, they all need to kind of step up. They're all capable top 15 players, and some of them are even top 10 players, I consider. If I was to do this based off of my opinion. So let's look at 5 people who missed out this month for the top 20 list. So we have Elite Spartan 100. He was 25th on the list of points or placings for the month. Missing out. His showings in RLIS really hurt him, and the IEC Cup 5 Tricks is very similar. IEC Cup 5 hurt him. And his RLIS showings in week 1 weren't great, but both Spartan and Tricks had a very good IEC Cup 6. Let's not forget that. Myself, I come in at 23rd due to my IEC placing, but weak showings in RLIS. You really have to do well in All-Star to really try and make this top 20. The superstar players have like an inherent advantage, basically. Dan misses out. He's had a poor time in RLIS this season, and that's really hurt his position. And Yem had a shocking week 1, and he had a poor IEC Cup 5. He was playing with players way below his level, but that's not really factored into the decision making here. So Yem comes in at 21st place. Let's move on. Number 15. In number 15, we have Shallow. And Shallow's accomplishments for the month of June are as follows. Top 6 in IEC Cup 5. He went 4-0 in week 1 against the Fomorians with 2-0 wins in both 2s and 3s, so it was looking well. He didn't play in IEC Cup 6, and then he went 1-4 in week 2 against the Banshees with a 2-0 loss in the 2s and a 2-1 loss in the 3s. So kind of lack of consistency there for me, some up and down performances, but the numbers basically on average, they don't lie. He can definitely break into the top 10, but he'll need to show more consistency for July if he's going to do that. Number 14, Jakie. So the next 3 players, there's a couple of them that haven't played enough tournaments to really, it's hard to place them. His only placing here is a top 2 in IEC Cup 5. Now, I put him down below both of his teammates because I thought he actually did quite a shaky performance in the final, contrary to some opinion or his own. And obviously he hasn't played in any other cups, so you have to play the cups if you want to go higher up on the list. Not good enough. Same with number 13, which is Ryan, his teammate from that IEC Cup 5 as well, where they finished second. Ryan was a bit better than Jake for me, and he's got more potential anyway, I think, than Jake as well. But again, he has to play more competitions. And we're just going to blast through these now as well, because Adzer is number 12. It was just opinion that separated it, and I went back and watched the finals, and for me, Adzer was by far the best player on the team in the final for this team. And yeah, Adzer is, in my mind, a top 5 player in Ireland in 3s. He just needs to show up to more RLI tourneys. He needs to kind of come in and play those tourneys, take that money, because he's well able to do so. He just has to do it. The only thing holding Adzer back is himself in this regard, because he's got the ability to carry, he's got the ability to play on really good teams. He can play around loads of people, so yeah, he's got to do it. And finally, number 11, just missing out on the top 10 this month, is Dmox. Dmox hasn't played in either of the IECs this month. However, he went 2-3 in week 1 against the Celtic Tigers with a 2-0 loss in the ones and a 2-1 win in the threes. So not too bad, not great though. But then he went 4-1 last week against the High Kings with a 2-0 win in the twos and 2-1 win in the threes. So Dmox has had a very solid final week, which saved his rating, because otherwise he was looking like maybe not even making the list here, which would have been a disaster. But he's just missing out in the top 10 of a virtue of not playing IECs for me. And he needs to keep up this level of performance. I feel like watching his series last week when he played against the High Kings, for me, or not even from watching it, I guess, more from hearing the opinion, because I only watched one game myself when I came in and watched. But Redeyes really was, a lot of people's opinion, really stepped up in that series. So for me, I couldn't give it to Dmox. He hasn't played in the IECs, and we don't see it enough of him. And when we do, he's kind of been below average. So yeah, for me, Dmox just missing out. So let's recap those players again. So we have Shallow, we have Jakie, Ryan, Adzer, and Dmox. For Shallow, it's just a lack of consistency. He's got to step up. He had a poor IEC Cup 5. And that was really hurt him. And his RLS has been decent, and then it went below the radar again there with a poor performance in week 2. He's got the ability easily to be in the top 10. He's just got to show it more consistently and convert. For Ryan, Adzer, and Jake, it's kind of just play the tournaments so we can place you a bit more accurately. For Dmox, not playing in the IECs, of course, hurts his chances there. So next up on the list, guys, we just want to mention this at this moment in time. So before we move into the top 10, I just want to look at a few people who've donated in terms of the Patreon for the IECs and the general donations. So patrons for June: HoodsN, NCannon, Royzer, they're all in the North Dublin tier. In the Tipp tier, we have Zexel, GraHa and Walshy, and then in the Johnstown tier, we've Haskell and Domhnaill. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting us. You didn't have to really for this month, but it shows the kind of enthusiasm you guys have. And as a reward, as you'll see, we're giving this video to you guys once off for free to any of the ones outside of the top tier, just this once. So thanks very much for that. And for the IEC Cup donors up as far as Cup 6, we have myself, Dave Forehead, Cans, Hiccup, Barzey, LTXSam, John, Luachra, Littledude, Aidan, Dormer, Panda, Walshy, VGF, Mull, Mago, Smoke Jesus, and Zexel. Anyone who donated a $5 or more, of course, I think that's everyone bar 2 people on the list, will be eligible to also see this video as a once off as well. And finally, our major donation, obviously, in Civic this year. As everyone knows, he donated $1,000, but we saw about €835 of that after the PayPal fees. Thank you very much as well there for that in Civic. And special thanks to all for helping us keep things going. Because without your help, we would be doing a lot less because we wouldn't have the resources to do it. So, before we go on to our top 10, let's just have a recap of who we had. We had Spectre, Jaffa, LTXSam, Penghu, Waz, Shallow, Jakie, Ryan, Adzer, and Dmox. And when compiling this list, I looked at all of the ICs from the last month, which was 5 and 6, and the RLIS, which was week 1 and week 2. I'm not going to consider week 3. I'll consider that, I think, more for July, even if the dates were technically played in June. I'll look at that in more detail later. Number 10, Walshy. So Walshy gets ahead of Dmox on virtue of a few different things, but he's played in IC and he finished 6th, which I thought was actually very disappointing. He went 3-3 in week 1 of RLS against the Celtic Tigers, a very formidable team, with a 2-1 loss in the twos, but winning threes 2-1. He didn't play in IEC Cup 6, but he went 2-1 in week 2 of RLS against the High Kings, which is a very reputable team, I think, winning 2-1 in the threes. For Walsh, he's always in and around the top 10 players in Ireland, and he has the ability to play at the highest level on his day, but he needs to step up on the grind. And that really does echo my kind of comments now, even looking back at it. Like, he's the kind of player that can play at the top 5 ability, but he just doesn't do it enough. He doesn't care. He doesn't have the enthusiasm, the drive. And if he wants to get back into that, he has to step up to that level, because even like statistically, we can't put him any higher. But even if it was opinion based, it's hard to put him any higher than this. Number 9, of course, is his teammate from RLS, Redeyes. Redeyes, of course, top 6 in IEC Cup 5, and he went 3-3 in week 1 of RLS against the Celtic Tigers with a 2-1 loss in the 2s and a 2-1 win in the 3s, similar to Walshy. But the difference between Redeyes and Walshy is he's top 4 in IEC Cup 6. It was a weaker IEC Cup, and they should have made top 2 in my opinion, but they didn't. But this helps Redeyes a bit here in comparison to Walshy, as he went 5-3 in week 2 of RLS against the High Kings. He had a 2-1 loss in ones, which I think was a very close series. 2-0 win in the 2s and 2-1 1 win in the threes. For me, Redeyes, I think this is the first time it has to be said. This man has dropped outside the top 5 for the first time since joining, I think, in 2018. And he's slowly been dropping off the top end of Rocket League now. And, is this the end for him? We'll find out soon. He is starting to return to form though in RLS, and he's shown it. But I think that might be because of the inherent chemistry between him, Walshy, and Dmox. And that might spark a run for him to get back into the top 5 in July. Number 8 is Colin. Scotland's top 4 in IEC Cup 5. He went 4-0 in week 1 of RLS against Atlanta with 2-0 wins in the 2s and the 3s. That was very impressive. Top 6 in IEC Cup 6, that was very disappointing. And he went 2-3 in week 2 of RLS against the Celtic Tigers with a 2-0 loss in the 2s and a 2-1 win in the 3s. So Colin's kind of had a really good peak early on in the month. But for me, I guess the thing for Colin here was the fact that his performances dropped, or at least his results dropped later on in the month. So he's got to show the consistency now. He's broken the top 10 for the first time, and you can see why Ryan keeps picking him up ahead of like certain other players, like his buddy Waz, for example. It's because Colin's getting the results at the end of the day, and he's showing that consistency. And it's not all about points at the end of the day. So Colin, well done to him on breaking the top 10, but you got to show the consistency. Number 7 is Littledude, 37. So top 4 in IEC Cup 5, that was a decent IEC Cup in my opinion, and he went 2-0 in the first week of RLS against Fomorians with a 2-0 win in the 3s. Now, he didn't play in IEC Cup 6, but he went 1-2 last week of RLS against the Banshees with a 2-1 loss in the 3s. So there's 1 or 2 players on this list that, and let me explain this to all the guys watching this. I have gone for completely number-driven rankings, unless it's a tiebreaker, and then opinion comes into it, or if an IEC Cup placing is quite impressive. Littledude's the only one that kind of stands out as an outlier. I have no problem with Colin in 8th. I would have an issue with Littledude at 7 because I don't think he's the 7th best player this month. It's just because he had a good placing in IEC Cup 5, which was excellent, and he did really well there. But other than that, he hasn't been that great. They played a Fomorians, a really weak team in 3s, and the 2-0 them. And watching that series, Mug was definitely the person who stepped up there. And he did lose last week in the 3s, a 2-1 loss. So Littledude, some people might find this a little bit surprising, but just so everyone knows, he is there because of his placings, not necessarily from what he's done. But at the end of the day, he's been consistent, and he's broken into the top 10 now as well in numbers based in Ireland, and he's got to keep it up. I think his goal will be probably to stay in the top 15, knowing Littledude, but yeah, you gotta keep driving on. Number 6, Arctic. So, top 4 in IEC Cup 5, which was an impressive one, I think. It wasn't too bad anyway, at least, and he'll be reasonably happy with that. He went 2-0 in week 1 of RLS against Atlanta with a 2-0 win in the 3s, which was a decent result. Then he went top 2 in IEC Cup 6. He did have me on his team, so that's a big handicap there you have to play with. But also that was a weak IEC Cup. But he went 2-5 last week in RLS with a 2-0 loss in the 1s and 2s and a 2-1 win in the 3s. So he was able to rescue his week there. Very capable, obviously, as we know, in the 3v3 environment, being able to play to that level consistently. But he struggles in 1s. He got completely outclassed by Rez. I had no doubts there, considering how much Rez was grinding him. Ross isn't taking those other game modes as seriously. And he was definitely outclassed in the 2s, I'd say. And his RLS performance, I think, that will be of concern to him. He'll need to push on to break into the top 5. And yeah, for me, he's always around the top 5 players discussion, but he's never quite in there. His only time was after Ballymena, where he got the MVP. That was like the only time. But other than that, he's always been just outside it. He's not quite able to get in there at the moment. And you can see why. He's just a little bit of inconsistency, and yeah, he's got to step up now if he wants to do it. So let's have a recap there of those again. We have Walshy, Redeyes, Colin, Littledude, and Arctic. For me, Walshy, I think on his day can be a top 5 player. Redeyes, as we know, has been a top 5 player for the longest time. So they'll be, I guess, a little bit disappointed with where they are, but the numbers don't lie, the results don't lie, and they've got to just kind of bring it together. And RLS is a great opportunity for those two guys with the strength of that team that they have. Colin has been impressive, I think. He's been consistent. Every time he plays to a consistent level. He gets consistent results. He's never really been that underwhelming except for IEC Cup 6. Littledude, he finds himself in the right teams at least, and that's half the battle. And yeah, I don't know if he'll stay in the top 10. I doubt that, but you never know. And for Arctic, 1s and 2s, anything outside 3s is his problem. And he's already played his ones. He's played one of his twos now, so his IEC results, or sorry, his RLS results should be a lot stronger going forward. We'll have to see though for IECs going forward for these kind of guys. So, top 5. So far, that's been 20 to 6. Yeah, some interesting ones. I'd like to hear your comments. Obviously, make sure you hit me up in the VIP general channel if you have any discussions there on these. But these are very number driven placings. I haven't influenced them only when there's been a tiebreaker, and that's only happened with the Jake, Azzer, and Ryan situation, and the Demox, Redeyes, and Walshy one. So those are based off of opinion, and maybe slightly different placings in certain situations. Other than that, complete number driven. So I can say the opinion isn't based on me, but yeah, that's the way I'd rate the players based off of the performances I've seen of them lately. I'd normally put Walshy ahead of Redeyes actually, but Redeyes had a very good week last week. So number 5, Rob Kiernan. 1v1 obviously is his environment. He didn't play IEC Cup 5. Apparently he was boycotting RLI, but that's his decision. He went 3-3 in week 1 of RLIS against the Banshees. 2-1 win in the 2s, but a 2-1 loss in the 3s, so not quite able there to get the 3s win. He won IEC Cup 6, definitely the weakest IEC Cup so far. But he still won it. You have to win it. You know, like no one can take it away from him. And he went 3-2 in week 2 of RLS. He had a 2-0 win in the 2s, and I heard he was excellent in that, really just creating and dominating. But again, the 3s, he's not quite able to convert, and that's going to be a worry for that team if they make playoffs. And then I guess look, top 5 right now. He's made top 5. He's been solidly in that discussion now for a good while. 1's definitely his strongest game mode, then 2s, and then 3s. So he needs to kind of step up a little bit in RLS. I'm not sure how he can exactly outside of 2s and 1s. Maybe he's just going to have to try and maybe play a bit more defensive. Maybe that's just not his style. His RLS performances are the only reason why he's not really in the discussion this month for number 1 player, because obviously he won the IEC Cup. Number 4. This is going to come as a surprise to some people, but it's actually Mug. Now, he won IEC Cup 5. That was a good IEC Cup to win. He went 6-0 week 1 of RLS against Fomorians with sweep in 1s, 2s, and 3s. He won IEC Cup 6. You're looking at it at this stage and going, how is he not number 1? How is he not number 1? But then he went 3-4 in week 2, and that kills him. That hurts Mug a lot with his performance, with his stats, with the numbers behind the scene. He went 3-4 against the Banshees with a 2-1 win in the 1s, but he lost the 2s 2-0 and the 3s 2-1. So that's where Mug falls down, unfortunately. He was literally number 1 until then. So he had the best opening 3 weeks of the month, and he was on course for number 1 spot. But he did have a really tricky kind of, I would almost say, not disastrous because he won the 1s in the end, but a very kind of not lackluster, because I think he is the best player in that team, but a disappointing week 2 in RLAS there. And I say he will need to pick himself up. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Don't know if he needs to pick himself up, but maybe he needs to pick his teammates up a little bit. But for me, Mug, he needs to just keep up the consistency. He had it for 3 weeks, perfect. Dropped off in week 4. Number 3 is APS. So he won IEC Cup 5. Now he hasn't done anything else. And you're wondering, how can you justify putting this guy in the top 3? Well, the way we weigh the numbers, if you only play 1 tournament, you get a weight average. And the weight average is a lot worse. But his weight average is still really high because he won the only cup. And he won a strong cup too. So I thought about taking him out of here and just upsetting the numbers. But I'm going to leave him in. Just so I can say that it's the numbers to put him in here. It's hard to know exactly where he'd place him, but he's been first or second or only 4th once in IEC. He just makes it in ahead of Mug, but he'll need to play more to stay here. He's definitely a top 5 player in Ireland on his day. Not even on his day, he's just a top 5 player in 3s. He just needs to play these cups more. He needs to get into them more. And for me, that's the big thing. So looking back, Rob Kiernan just needs to play more, I guess, a bit more consistently in the RLIS. Mug for me, he's kind of just a bad week in RLIS, but not even a disastrous week, just not a great week. APS needs to play more tournaments, and that's kind of where they're at the moment. Number 2 is Panda. So he didn't play in IEC Cup 5, but he went 6-0 in week 1 of RLIS against Atanta with a sweep in 1s, 2s, and 3s, very similar to Mug. He came second in IEC Cup 6. Again, yes, the weakest one. But he did that with me on his team, so that deserves something. And he went 2-1 in week 2 of RLIS against the Celtic Tigers with a 2-1 win in the 3s. That's the only thing he played. So he didn't play in IEC Cup 5, which hurt his chances, but I don't think he fancied it. No, there was a reason for it. I can't remember what the reason was. Something to do with barbecues or something. But anyway, He's showing great consistency throughout all the tournaments. It's an easy second place for him. Up until the last week, he was sitting in number 3 behind Mug and Mayday, but Mug fell off with a an unlucky showing, I guess, in week 4. So it's an easy second place in the end. And there's quite a gap between him and third, in terms of the points. So yeah, well done there to Panda. And yeah, just got to keep it up now. Don't let it go to your head. Number 1. There he is. He's retired, but he's gone out with a bang. He won RLS Season 3. Now, I know he wasn't the strongest player, but he still had to win it. He won IEC Cup 5. Again, probably not the strongest player. Won IEC Cup 6. Again, probably not the strongest player, but he's just so consistent. He's winning everything. And I'll tell you what, it's great to go out on the top of your game. And yeah, the most consistent player this month. And like, sure, he has a weight average because he's only played in 2 of the 4 tournaments this month, or 2 of the 4 game weeks he could play in. And even then, his weight average is still better than Panda's by like a long way. The only person that was close was Mug, and Mug had him beat until week 4. So, and that as we've already said, that killed Mug's his sitting or his placement. Well done to Mayday. For me, he's been the best player in June, and the numbers back it up. He's been excellent. He scored some world-class goals. He's put in some top-class performances, and it's always nice to go out on the top of your game. So there you go. Your top 5: Rob Kiernan, Mug, APS, Panda, and Mayday. And yeah, I mean, like, some people will obviously be, I guess, a bit frustrated or annoyed with this list, but I wanted to go down the route of, putting it numbers based to take the onus away from me, so I can't get blamed and get abused in DMs and get called out in general and stuff. So for me, this was a case of trying to back it up with numbers, and the numbers say it all. Like, I mean, Mayday's number 1, and there's no question about it. And like, he puts himself on the best team. That's a brilliant. That's a good showing of like a good player, someone who actually knows what he's doing. Like, you can't find yourself on good teams unless you ask as well. If you're too afraid to ask and you just want to go with the same old, maybe things will never change for you. Why don't you just ask these so-called better players, see what you can get on? He's on a team with Morgan APS, on a team with Morgan Rob Kiernan, but like, you still have to win it, and he goes out and he wins it. And he'll be very happy. He's got himself 40 run the last month from IEC, and yeah, well done to him. And he can hold his head very high as he ends his career. Although I'm sure we'll still see him in tournaments, but that's the end of his proper competitive career. That was his last real competitive game. I'm sure we'll still see him in RLIS maybe in the following seasons, or maybe the odd IEC here and there because the money. But yeah. So there you go, guys. That's the list. A few things again. I mentioned there was 1 or 2 players that I wasn't particularly sold on placing them. I think for me, Waz was a little bit lower on the list than what he should have been. I would have put him personally a bit higher up, but the numbers don't back it up. A Littledude on the flip side of things, he was really high up. But a Littledude, I think for me, wouldn't have made the top 10 based off of what I've seen from him lately. But the numbers back up Littledude's performance, so I put him in at number I think it was 7. Everyone else, I'm pretty happy with where they ended up on the list. That's pretty much where I thought they should be based off of their performances. I'm shocked at Jaffa in particular. I think he's way below where he should be in this list. On the flip side of things, when you look at the players that were a good bit above, Colin, well, look to him. He had an excellent month. And yeah, there's a few players that will be disappointed with their positions. Notably, I'd say Shallow and LTXSam. Maybe Spectre. Don't think he will though, because he knows he hasn't played the IECs. They'll need to kind of step up really and play a bit more in these IECs. IECs are worth a lot, not just for money, Wikipedia points as well. Get playing them. So the final thing I just want to say is, hey, class. Just special thanks again to all our patrons, and I'll see you all again at the end of the month of July for another top 20 list, MUP RLI. This is going to go out as a once-off gesture to all of our guys who've donated to us in the last couple of months, or as far back as I can remember. So you guys can watch it, so maybe that'll give you a taste of what this is in future. I'm gonna, as I said to myself, I went very easy on this top 20 list. I didn't want to go in too hard because I want people to give me some feedback on whether they want me to go in a bit harder or not. I could have absolutely roasted a few people here, but I said I'd leave it off. But yeah, enjoy the video. Hope you enjoyed it. We're at the 29-minute mark now, so we'll see you next time. Bye now.